Well, good morning, everyone. Those that have been here already, and those that have been here already, enjoying morning prayer. And also welcome to you who are listening and watching at some time and some place in the future. Our meditation this morning springs, as it usually does, from the readings from morning prayer. And I'll tell you what those are now so that you can make reference to them if you wish. These are Psalm 80 and the first book of Maccabees, chapter 3, 1 to 26, and the Gospel of Mark, chapter 15, 1 to 15. But most of all, today is the day of Francis of Assisi, St Francis of Assisi. And so the meditation this morning will be illuminated by his presence, God willing. So let us return to meditation now, or come into meditation, coming into the inward state. And today we might like to do this by starting on the outside, by being aware of the environment that we're sitting in at this moment, the room that we're in, the sounds inside or outside, the fragrances, and drawing our attention to this room that we sit in, which is our body. Just allowing the breath to circulate freely with a comfortable but alert posture, where possible. And breathing into any areas of tension or aching with love and compassion and acceptance, no judgment necessary. As we come into the attunement of Francis today, we may feel that love, that non-judgmental love, and we can experience that for our bodies in whatever state they are at the moment. And let's now bring our attention to our minds, just to be aware with loving, non-judgmental awareness of the thoughts that are passing like clouds scudding across the blue sky. And as we notice any particular thought, we notice it and let it go. It's not possible to stop thinking, but we can let them go. And in that sense of letting go, we feel that the breath deepens and lengthens, and a sense of just a little bit more ease comes into us. And we may become aware a little bit more of the blue sky of mind. Universal mind, which underlies those many thoughts. So breathing in and out of that clear blue sky, as the mind clears and settles, it is open to inspiration and guidance. And not that we're particularly seeking it, but we're just allowing the space for it. And let's draw our attention to our hearts which are human hearts which go through so much in our human life. Just breathing out a compassionate breath, non-judgmental breath, fully into the heart as fully as we can. So just melting a little of that armoring that is inevitable, accumulates over a day. And as we breathe in and out of our hearts, we feel our hearts expand. When our human hearts merge into the one heart, it's indescribably huge. So we just let the heart melt and expand, knowing that it's quite safe here to do that. perhaps experiencing a stream of love which starts to bubble up as the heart melts. And maybe we can just touch into the peace that passes all understanding, that passes the mind and lies underneath the heart, deep in the heart. The peace of deep abiding in the divine, in the embrace of the divine. And we do all of this in the name of love eternal, in the name of love incarnate in the Christ, in us, in the name of that love which flows into us and flows out from us into the world. Bring healing and peace. So I'd like to share with you an experience which I had of Francis many years ago when I was on retreat. It was a very deep, long retreat, and I had this experience or visualization or waking dream, whatever one might call it. And I was returning home to what I thought was myself in the dream. And this town that it was me, was on a hill, and I entered the hill, entered the town on the hill, and climbed up, and I was looking for the palace, which I knew was there, and I was looking for the king that was my father. And as I entered the town, I saw that it was in ruins. It was overtaken by people that were trashing it. And when I got to the palace, it was the same. The whole palace was cleaned out and kind of somehow dirtied. And I couldn't find the king anywhere. The throne was empty and soiled. And I couldn't understand what was happened, and I ran through the town looking for the king, and eventually I found the king in a pub, drunk, his royal robe open to reveal a dirty white vest. and in distraught and in despair that everything that I had thought was holy and real and precious was destroyed, and I, in this waking dream, I ran out of the town, down the hill, and away from the town onto some flat ground, and there was a large log and it was dark. The town was on fire by now, and I sat on the log in despair, and I looked up at this image of myself being destroyed. And in the darkness and in my despair, as this this I can't think of the word now. This monument that I thought was myself, that I had made in the dark, watching this crumble and crackle. I felt a presence next to me, and very quietly in the dark, Francis came in his brown habit. I notice I'm wearing brown today. Don't normally wear brown. Francis came in his brown habit, and I could smell him. He smelled of earth and vegetation and kind of a body. And he sat beside me on this log in the dark, in the quiet. And he sat right up close to me, so close that I could feel his thigh lightly pressing on mine. And he said nothing, but he was just the presence there in my, at that time, despair. And I've never forgotten that feeling of love and that feeling of being with in our suffering. And thinking about Francis and also our gospel reading today, which is an account which ends, and it is the trial of Jesus before his crucifixion, and the gospel reading ends, and so Pilate, anxious to appease the crowd, released Barabbas to them, and after ordering Jesus to be scourged, he handed him over to be crucified. And I have been wondering and reflecting myself on the significance of suffering. And that suffering which is at the heart of the Christian tradition, both the suffering and the joy, and our human experience is so often of suffering and how we deal with it. So let us just reflect and breathe for a moment on just our connection with this thought of what is the significance of suffering? Does it have a significance? Is it important? Do we have to suffer? Whatever comes to you just first and quite naturally. And we may find that in reflecting on that, we manage to drop out of the clatter of the mind on that and allowed it to drop into a bit deeper into heart. Francis, as we've heard already in morning prayer, began his journey to become the person that he did become through enormous suffering. We've heard already that he ended up in a dungeon for a year following a battle in which he was captured and held for ransom. And everything that he knew up to that point, which was luxury, wealth, good looks, favor with the girls, a good time, gradually broke down during that time. And when he came out, he was a broken man. And that set him off on a completely different direction in life. And I'd like to, with you, invoke the presence of Francis now. I'll do that with a few words of description about him. So, from the beginning, he was affectionate and warm and desirous. He longed to be noble. He was impulsive and enthusiastic. And he was full of humor and tricks and jokes. As he evolved following that early experience of breakdown, he began to speak with unmistakable sincerity. He became more attractive and more magnetic to people and to nature. He had a tender feeling for all of life, animals and plants, rocks and elements. And he became very magnetic. People began to join him from all walks of life. He led the people following him by example. He delegated work and leadership according to each brother's skills and attributes. He received everyone kindly, remaining cheerful and always singing. He was inebriated by God's love, no sooner giving instruction than all would rush to obey him. Soon at the yearly chapter, thousands of brothers were camped out. Increasingly, the brothers were called on to be peacemakers in the community. And behind it all was the presence of Francis. He had a sweetness that melted hearts. He was open and kind to all. He led by example, and he lived precisely as he preached. Always the first to acknowledge his shortcomings. His was a life of radical poverty, radical repentance, radical compassion. So let us open ourselves, if you will, to the presence of this great being of love and light. And as we do so, maybe we can breathe his name, Francis, or Francesco in Italian, on the in-breath and the out-breath, bringing that sweetness and warmth, that compassion, right into ourselves. So continuing with the breath, invoking Francis, Francesco by name, by presence. Let's breathe, invoking Francis into the body, bringing this energy into our bodies. breathing this energy of love and light, compassion into our minds, bringing this Francis energy into our hearts. Francis taught, sanctify yourselves and you will sanctify society. We have been called to heal wounds, to unite what has fallen apart, to bring home those who have lost their way. Sanctify yourselves and you will sanctify society. We have been called to heal wounds, to unite what has fallen apart, to bring home those who have lost their way. So let us feeling love. Let the love flow out from us to the front and behind, to the left and the right, above us and below us. As we feel the love of this being begin to fill our hearts, let it flow out. In the Buddhist tradition, this is called metta. But they say that when love meets suffering in ourselves or in others, it becomes compassion. It becomes karuna. And so we attend with open, vulnerable awareness on our own suffering and the suffering of others. We are here to heal wounds, to unite what has fallen apart, to bring home that which is lost. But the Buddhist practice carries on to say that all is not suffering. And love is also joy. And so let us open to that joy which Francis so exuded in all circumstances, the joy which we have in our lives, whether now or at other times, the joy which is all over the world, a celebration of human life and the abundance of the divine. And the washing through of light, of the vibrancy and energy of love leaping inside us. Of the fragrance of flowers, of friends, And the Buddhists call this mudita, joy. The third movement of love, metta, karuna, mudita. It is the resurrection. But the fourth movement of life is beyond duality. It is unity, it is peace, it is what the Buddhists call upekkha. Knowing that all is one, suffering and joy, the limitation and the limitlessness. So let us stay with this upekkha for a moment. I am, we can say, I am my I am presence. And in my I am presence, I am one with the I am presence of the divine. And I am one with every man, woman and child in the world, in suffering or in joy. And I am one with all of nature, the elements, the rocks, the water. One with the plants and the trees, one with the birds and the fish and the animals. I am my I am presence, and I am one with the I am presence of the divine. Amen.